The 5th year I loved Gary Liu, he forced me to marry his nephew. The reason? His long-lost love had returned. But he was too greedy, he wanted both her and me. So he handed me over to Liu himself. Take good care of Victoria for me. The whole of North City knew Will was gay and had no interest in women. Until later, when he discovered me pinned against the car seat by Will, kissing passionately. Only then did panic seize him. He pounded on the window, watching Will's lips trail upward from my collarbone. The window rolled down. Will gently sucked my lips, his gaze slanting toward Gary's face. Uncle, voyeur? Subscribe now, the story begins. The day Gary's long-lost love returned, Gary was preparing for his wedding with me. When he got the call, his expression clearly froze. His cold eyes suddenly flashed with unmistakable delight. What's got you so happy? I wrote the invitations by hand while studying him. Gary wasn't one to wear his emotions on his sleeve, never had been. Nothing. Gary set down his pen, cupped the phone to his ear, and walked straight to the balcony. Watching his retreating back, my heart twinged with an inexplicable, needle-prick pain. My right eyelid began to twitch uncontrollably. When I picked up the pen again, I realized the paper beneath my hand had somehow become blurred and smudged. I frantically tidied the mess on the desk, my mind in utter chaos. I heard that voice on the phone just now. And it was her. Gary didn't sit back down to continue discussing wedding details with me. Instead, he hurried straight to the entryway, grabbed his coat, and walked out the door. The moment the door slammed shut, it echoed with a loud thud, reverberating fiercely in my heart. I stared blankly at the direction Gary had left, a bitter smile curling my lips. This must be the devastating power of the white moonlight. My phone lit up with a message from Gary. Gotta run out for something. You go ahead and sleep. My heart skipped a beat. I replied, what is it? Gary didn't respond. I should have seen this coming. I tucked the wedding invitations back into the box and curled up on the sofa. My mind was filled with Gary and her. She was Gary's white moonlight, Catherine. Just like a cliché story, Catherine pursued her dreams abroad and broke up with Gary. A problem that could have been solved with a single plane ticket, they chose to give up. But it was precisely because of their surrender that I gained the chance to chase after Gary. From the first time I confessed to him. From his rejection to his acceptance. In the 3rd year I loved him, after countless confessions, Gary finally reciprocated my feelings. In the 5th year I loved him, the 3rd year we were together, Gary promised to marry me. Then, Catherine returned. I opened my social media app and scrolled aimlessly. News of Catherine's return had indeed exploded online. The Liu family patriarch greeted her at the airport late at night. Fireworks lit up the riverbank all night long, all to win a smile from the moonlight. Gary returned at 4 in the morning. He still carried the chill of autumn and winter, and when he drew near, it sent a shiver through my whole body. Weren't you sleeping? Or did you wake up? Gary pulled me tightly into his embrace through the covers. Perhaps from staying up all night, his voice was hoarse and raspy. A scent neither his nor mine suddenly invaded my nostrils, sweet and cloying. Hands hidden beneath the covers suddenly dug into my palms. I forced a smile. Awake. Gary nodded, his cool lips brushing my eyelid. Sleep a little longer. I'll take a shower. The sound of trickling water filled the bathroom. My heart lifted and sank and lifted again. At least he didn't spend the night with Catherine, right? I tried to reassure myself, but tears stubbornly rolled down my cheeks, disappearing beneath the pillow. By the time Gary emerged from the shower, I had mostly calmed myself. I turned my back to him, focusing on steadying my breathing. Gary wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, burying his face in the crook of my neck and nuzzling me. Victoria, I love you. So much. Gary had taken down the trending topic. Catherine had become a moderately famous violinist. This time back home, she'd accepted an offer from a renowned domestic orchestra. This also meant she wouldn't be leaving again. The above comprised all publicly known details of Catherine's return. That night's fireworks seemed like an insignificant interlude, a chapter turned and forgotten. Catherine's return appeared to have no impact on Gary and my relationship or our upcoming wedding. Until that day, when Gary picked me up from work to try on wedding dresses. At the bridal shop, I encountered Catherine. Victoria, let me introduce you. This is Catherine, the one I've mentioned to you before. Gary introduced his relationship with Catherine without batting an eye, as friends, as alumni, but made no mention of their once passionate romance. Then again, who didn't know? Otherwise, why would the bridal shop staff be waiting to see me make a fool of myself? I forced a light-hearted smile and extended my hand to Catherine. Senior, I've heard so much about you. By both custom and logic, I should address Catherine as senior. She was my senior at university. The orchestra Catherine joined this time, though I'm in it too, she's the concertmaster. Gary's friends all say I'm Catherine's stand-in. I never believed it before. I thought I was nothing like Catherine. Except that we both played the violin. But now, I believe it. Because Gary turned me into Catherine. Gary liked my long black hair, so I grew mine out. Gary liked me in jeans, so I ditched the dresses. After the small talk, I hurriedly retreated into the dressing room, trying to process the heartbreaking details that felt like they were suffocating me. Gary's long fingers reached through the curtain, lifting a corner. What's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing. I just want to try on the wedding dress quickly. I met Gary's appraising gaze, twisting my hands behind my back in nervous fidgeting. Gary chuckled softly with affection. All right. See? How could I ever think he didn't love me? How could I ever believe I was just a substitute? At least in this moment, I believed he did love me. Otherwise, how could he have noticed my emotional turmoil? Gary had chosen the style, a mermaid tail gown. Strapless with scattered diamonds, lace accents. When I stepped out of the fitting room in my own clothes, I saw Catherine wearing another dress. The one I most wanted to try, but Gary hadn't let me. Gary gazed at Catherine with gentle eyes, his voice soft. Beautiful. Only you can wear this dress. This dress was Gary's own design from 3 years ago. So it was meant only for her. My heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, I felt pathetic and ridiculous. I lowered my gaze as I brushed past Catherine. Pausing briefly beside Gary, I said, something urgent came up. I need to head back. All right, I'll have the driver take you. Gary's gaze never left Catherine for a moment, he even spoke those words while looking at her. Okay. The short walk from the bridal shop to the car felt like centuries had passed. Only after getting into the car did I notice Gary had followed behind me. He stretched out his long legs and sat beside me. I stared at Gary in shock, then at Catherine behind him, her eyes slightly reddened. Gary's voice was like a spell, making my heart leap with joy once more. I'll take you home. If I'd known all this was an illusion Gary had created, I never would have looked forward to this wedding. On the wedding day, every prominent figure in North City was present. Cameras and microphones were everywhere, broadcasting live across the city. Only upon arriving at the venue did I realize the man marrying me today wasn't Gary at all. The handwritten invitations I'd crafted were reduced to ashes. The wedding photos Gary and I had taken vanished without a trace. Will stared at me with a cold expression, his eyes shrouded in unreadable emotion. His suit matched my wedding gown perfectly. But he was Gary's own nephew. Standing on the stage, I felt like I was about to collapse. Gary appeared on stage as the officiant. He solemnly placed my hand into Will's. Take good care of Victoria for me. Don't worry, Uncle Gary. I tried to pull away from Gary's grip, but his lips drew near, whispering into my ear. Be good, Victoria. You wouldn't want the Liu family to humiliate me, would you? Obey. Marry Will. It won't change how much I love you. It won't change how much he loves me. Tears fell like broken beads, crashing onto the floor. My eyes reddened, my voice choked so tight I couldn't even form a question. My blood felt frozen, my strength drained away. Like a marionette, I completed the entire ceremony before Will led me away. Will. All of North City knew him as arrogant and tyrannical, one of the city's few spoiled second-generation heirs. All of North City also knew he was gay, utterly uninterested in women. Will's hands were cold. He draped his suit jacket over my shoulders and pulled me through the crowd by the hand. My mind drifted as I stumbled along, only snapping back to reality when Gary's gaze briefly met mine. Gary raised his glass in a nod, his arm wrapped around Catherine's pale, slender hand. My face drained of color. I yanked my hand free from Will's grasp and fled in panic. Will didn't seem the least bit angry. He stood beside me, looking down at me crouched by the roadside. The length of the car shielded my disheveled state as he murmured with lowered eyes. Let's go. Will brought me back to the Liu family's old mansion. While he showered in the bathroom, I sat uneasily on the bed. Will is gay. I repeated it over and over in my mind. The powerful mental suggestion gradually calmed me. I thought, Will probably wouldn't do anything to me. We'd known each other for a very, very long time. Gary returned slightly tipsy. He pushed open Will's door and beckoned me with a finger. Come here, Victoria. Will emerged from the bathroom bare-chested, fine strands of hair still dripping water. Uncle Gary, why are you barging into your nephew's room to snatch someone? Will's tone was flippant. Gary didn't seem angry, but it made my ears burn. Victoria, come here. Gary's gaze locked onto my face. He always saw right through me. I wanted to see through him for once. I stood up and followed Gary out of the room. As I passed Will, I heard him snort in disdain. No backbone. Spine. But what spine matters in the face of love? Besides, Gary owed me an explanation. Gary's explanation was that he loved me. He also loved Catherine. He wanted both. I stumbled backward, knocking over the glass of water on the table. The shards that flew when it hit the floor cut my ankle. The faint sting was drowned out by the sharp pain in my heart. Gary, do you even know what you're saying? I asked him, my voice trembling. Gary's eyes swept over the scattered glass, and he nodded, utterly unruffled. Victoria, I feel at ease knowing Will take care of you. You know Will's situation, he won't mind. As for Catherine, just keep it from her. Shocked, I covered my mouth as tears surged like a tidal wave. This was my first glimpse into Gary's true nature. Filthy, greedy, despicable. He wanted to keep me by his side yet refused to let go of rekindling things with Catherine. Gary, you disgust me. Gary smiled coldly. He pulled a cigarette pack from his pocket, lit it, and placed it between his lips. A crimson flicker danced in the dim space, flickering on and off. Like his love for me, utterly incomprehensible. Victoria, you've always been so good. Right? Catherine just got back. Don't make trouble. Once I handle things with her, I'll be there for you. In the meantime, you can go out. I've arranged leave for you with the orchestra. Once Gary made up his mind, no one could stop him. But I never imagined he'd turn down the orchestra's year-end performance for me. I'd rehearsed for 2 months for this performance. Without Catherine, if everything went smoothly, I could have secured the principal position. Fury shook me to my core, bitterness, resentment, frustration, all tangled together. Sobbing in agony, I hurled everything within reach at him. Gary, you have no right to interfere with my work. And you have no right to interfere with my life or my marriage. For the sake of sparing him embarrassment, I endured the wedding ceremony that day. Everyone knew how hollow the congratulations from the audience truly were. I closed my eyes, my heart feeling like it was being sliced by a blunt knife. Gary, I never want to see you again. That day, Gary and I parted on bitter terms. As he left, he forced a kiss upon my lips. Just this once. I never want to hear you say things like that again. I slapped Gary across the face. He must have been furious, his eyes were bloodshot. Only after he turned to walk away did I notice blood trickling down his temple. I collapsed onto the sofa, letting the pain wash over me. Later, Will's soft chuckle snapped me back to reality. He stood by the second-floor railing, watching me with a smile. When I looked at him, he gave me a thumbs up. In a daze, I remembered the frail, helpless Will from before. Will and I met at the orphanage. I'd never seen my parents since birth, but Will was different. Will had parents. Only, they had passed away. He couldn't find his way home, waiting at the orphanage for someone to come and take him back. Gary was the one who came to take him home. 16-year-old Gary still carried traces of boyish innocence, yet he stepped out of the car with a serious expression. He scrutinized Will from head to toe before handing the director a generous sum. As Will prepared to leave, he asked Gary to sponsor me. Gary agreed. Before getting into the car, Will gave me a thumbs up. Hang in there, sis Victoria. That year, I was 10. Will was 7. I resigned from the orchestra. With a prodigiously talented violinist like Catherine, the orchestra made no attempt to retain me. The director asked me symbolically about my future plans, and I brushed it off with a vague reply. I'll go abroad to clear my head first. I hadn't expected that offhand remark to be noted down by Will. Probably because Will had too much time on his hands. At least that much was evident from the dozen or so suitcases Will had the stylist prepare. Each one was packed with fully coordinated outfits, some for him, some for me. When he dragged me to the airport, I was still in a daze. Victoria, is Gary really that great? Will gritted his teeth as he shoved the ticket into my hand and pulled me toward the gate. No, I bit my lip hard and shook my head. But I was sad. Just one more day of sadness, and that would be enough. That was the deadline I set for myself. The journey was long. Will took me across all of Europe. He was flamboyant, fiery, and vibrant, forcibly pulling me out of my grief. Our final destination was set for Iceland. Will said, once you've been to Iceland, nothing else will bother you. While hiking on the glacier, Will stood behind me. His hands cupped my waist, his voice tender and lingering. So Victoria, why don't you turn around and look at me? I turned, confused. But my gaze met Will's clear eyes, unmistakably genuine, steady, and unwavering. My heart began to race uncontrollably. Even though everyone said Will liked men. Stop it. I turned away, fixing my gaze on the distant glacial lake. A strange feeling quietly spread within me. When had Will stopped calling me Victoria's sister and started using just Victoria? For the next 5 hours of hiking, Will acted as if nothing had happened. Leaving me alone, my mind in turmoil. Victoria, you liar. Have you forgotten what you once said? My consciousness lingered only on Will's accusatory words. When I awoke, I was lying in Will's arms. Both of us completely naked. I sat bolt upright, grabbing the blanket. Will. After a moment's daze, a sliver of memory returned. After returning from the glacier, we went to a bar. When we were slightly tipsy, Gary called on video. I hung up. He kept calling. He kept calling. I kept hanging up. After several rounds of this, Gary lost patience completely. He called Will instead. Where's Victoria? Has she come to her senses these past days? Gary's voice came through the phone, devoid of any warmth. He only cared whether I'd accept his offer to be his secret lover. Will wrapped his arm around my waist, resting his head on my shoulder. Uncle, the signal's bad, then Will hung up on Gary too. The sharp sting of alcohol on my tongue and nerves made me crave more. The more Will tried to stop me, the more I drank. Somehow, we ended up back in the room. We drank our way to the bed. As he entered me, Will kept repeating, Victoria, don't regret this. You lied to me once. You can't lie to me twice. What had I lied to Will about? I didn't know. I couldn't remember. All I could recall was last night's madness. Hearing my voice, Will finally opened his eyes, no longer pretending to sleep. The air froze in an instant, utterly silent. Will looked at me hurt, sitting up in bed. He didn't speak, instead deliberately spinning around in front of me, bare-chested. His excuse, looking for clothes. Several distinct, bright red scratch marks now marred his muscular back. His neck and chest were covered in suggestive marks. My face flushed, and I hid under the covers, my legs weak and trembling. Will, you liar. Will, a complete and utter liar. He deceived everyone, including Gary. He wasn't the gay man the rumors claimed. His aversion to women? Just a protective camouflage he donned. As for why he did it, he didn't say, and I didn't ask. I bit my nails, my heart spinning even faster. When Will came back in, he carried milk and fried eggs. Need to recharge? He smirked, his words cheeky, yet his ears flushed slightly. Get lost. I threw a pillow at him. He caught it and leaned closer. Our return trip, originally planned for the afternoon, was delayed because of Will. Gary's calls kept coming in. No answer. No time to answer. By the time Will carried me back to bed, Gary had called dozens of times. Watching the unread messages pile up, I felt an unprecedented thrill. Trash. Will snatched my phone and flipped it face down on the bed. He slipped his fingers between mine, his lips brushing my earlobe. Victoria, I like you. I've liked you for 19 years. I stared at Will in disbelief. 19 years. Will and I had known each other for 19 years. Yet in those 19 years, our interactions had been scarce. If not for Gary, I doubt we would have crossed paths again. I pressed my lips together and spoke. Will, I thought we were just fuck buddies? Will laughed bitterly. Victoria, do you even have a heart? The price of having no heart was being unable to get out of bed. It took me a long time to recall that saying, feelings can be slept into existence. Will, I don't want this anymore. I pressed against Will's chest as my phone rang incessantly at the foot of the bed. Will relaxed his grip, burying his face deep into the crook of my neck. His voice carried an almost imperceptible tremor. Victoria, you won't leave me, right? My arms around Will paused, my breath catching. I turned my head away. No, I'm sorry, Will. I might have to lie to you again. When I answered the video call, Gary's face was dark and terrifying. His gaze seemed to pierce through the screen, fixed on my face. Victoria, why didn't you answer? Do you know how worried I was? Worried? I curled my lips in sarcasm, my gaze landing on a red shoulder strap peeking out behind Gary. Gary, we're even now. Gary, I'm not accepting your proposal. And I don't love you anymore. Please respect Catherine, and respect me. Let's just stop contacting each other. After hanging up, I rose and walked into the bathroom. Will had already left the room by the time I answered the call. The hot water enveloped me from head to toe. Saying I don't love you turned out to be terrifyingly simple. By the time I finished showering, Will had packed all his belongings. He placed dinner on the table, his expression solemn. What's wrong? I sat at the dining table, watching him. I'm sorry, Victoria. I might have to head back early. I've booked your flight already. Get some rest tonight. I'll pick you up when you land tomorrow, okay? As he spoke, he sent the flight details to my phone, his brow furrowed with regret and reluctance. Okay. I nodded. Will waited until I finished eating before leaving. He walked quickly, likely with something important to attend to. After he departed, I checked out of my room and headed to the airport too. I booked a flight to Seaside City. Leaving North City was a decision made before my trip. Will was the only variable. But I felt unable to reciprocate his feelings. Compared to North City, Seaside City's climate was humid, damp, and hot. Flowers and grasses bloomed everywhere. After arriving in Seaside City, I rented a small house with a yard. The rent wasn't much different from North City's. Fortunately, I'd saved some money from work over the years, barely enough to get by. Right after landing, Will called me. I concealed my destination, only saying I wanted to clear my head alone. Will fell silent on the other end. After a long pause, he softly said, okay. His voice carried a hint of exhaustion. I couldn't fathom what troubles could weigh on a carefree playboy like him. I decided not to dwell on it. Gary sent me a message. He wrote, Victoria, there's a limit to how much you can get angry. I won't indulge you forever. I silenced my phone and didn't reply. The beach was always bustling with people. Waves crested and receded, women nestled in men's arms watching the sunset. The events in North City felt like a distant memory from ages past. Until a month later, when a knock sounded at my door. Will stood there in a bright floral shirt, a suitcase beside him. The moment he saw me, he pulled me into his arms. Victoria. His hot breath brushed my hair before he released me in an instant. His gaze burned hotter than his breath. I instinctively looked away, lowering my head. Did Gary come looking for you? He asked. Did Gary come looking for me? I froze. After a moment, I shook my head. Gary wouldn't come looking for me, that's just how he is. Well, Gary's getting married to Catherine. Did you know? I looked up at Will. Then I congratulate them. Gary marrying Catherine, wasn't that wedding dress the best proof? I'd known all along. I smiled, feeling nothing inside. But he's trying to force you back. I remembered Gary's words, he wouldn't indulge me forever. So this was his way of not indulging me. He probably thought this would make me go back obediently. But he didn't know I didn't love him anymore. I stopped loving him after returning from Iceland. Will sat on the sofa, scanning my rented 2-story house. Why did you come to Seaside City? My hand holding the coffee stiffened slightly. Why did I come to Seaside City? I remained silent, offering no answer. Did you come for freedom, or for me? Will rose and walked behind me. His arms wrapped around my waist. Victoria, was it for me? Yes, and no. Because that day in Iceland, I'd asked Will, if you didn't have to consider anyone or anything, which city would you choose to settle in? He said, Seaside City. Why Seaside City? Because 19 years ago, Will asked me, Victoria, which city do you like best? I said, Seaside City. Why Seaside City? Because Seaside City has the sea. Back then, I yearned for beauty and freedom. Life in Seaside City was slow and beautiful. I recalled my former self, my past desires and pursuits. If one day I can, I must fly higher and farther, freely seeing this world. These were the words I once shared with Will in my youth. Yet I abandoned freedom, my head clouded by love's beautiful packaging. I kept changing myself to please Gary. I even silently endured a last-minute change of groom at the wedding, all because of Gary's words. Will, I'm sorry. I might not be able to return your feelings. My words were silenced by Will's possessive kiss. He gripped the back of my head, biting down hard on my lips as if he wanted to merge me into his body. I don't need your response. Just enjoy the fact that I like you. What kind of talk is that? I didn't understand. But I realized I was sinking deeper into this. If liking Gary was a long-planned strategy, then liking Will was a sudden, unexpected flutter of the heart. So I wanted to try with him. Will settled in Seaside City. I found a job teaching music, instructing children in violin. Will was busy every day, leaving early and returning late. The calm was shattered when Gary reappeared. Winter gave way to spring. Gary and Catherine's wedding was set for Seaside City. Local headlines ran the story for days straight. Will pulled me into his arms, panic etched on his face. I won't let him take you away. Okay. I really don't want him to see you again. Don't worry, he can't take you. Will finally snapped out of it, grinning like a fool. Oh, right. We already had our wedding. I stood on tiptoe, leaning close to his lips, whispering the reminder. We're legally married. Legally certified. On Valentine's Day. We waited in a long line and finally got our marriage certificate. On Gary's wedding day, Catherine wore that very gown he designed himself. As the only blood relative of the Liu family, Will had to attend. I'll be back soon. Wait for me in the car. Lock it up. Will disappeared through the hotel entrance, glancing back every few steps. Sitting in the car, I scanned the surroundings aimlessly until my gaze settled on the giant wedding photo displayed on the big screen. Gary's lips remained tightly pressed together, his expression unreadable. Catherine beamed like a flower, leaning lightly against his shoulder. Just as I thought. Not as good as the photo on Will and my marriage certificate. Lost in thought, I noticed Will standing by the car window. He curved his lips, pulled open the door, slid inside, and locked it. I looked at him questioningly, about to speak. A wave of dominance washed over me, stealing my breath. Will's kisses descended like a storm, and I weakly wrapped my arms around his neck. What's wrong? Did the wedding end so quickly? Will didn't answer, instead plundering my lips and tongue with even greater intensity. Moments later, he brought his lips close to my earlobe. He kissed his way down my neck, to my collarbone. Springtime splendor unfolded. Until a violent thud shattered the car window. Only then did I snap from my daze. Outside, I thought I saw Gary. His eyes were bloodshot, murderous. I nudged Will. Yeah, trash. Will replied in a breathless whisper, yet his lips continued their ascent from my collarbone without pause. Until his large hand pinched my earlobe, cupping the back of my head, and he plunged his lips onto mine once more. Gary stood outside the window, showing no sign of leaving. Catherine held the hem of her skirt, her beautiful face streaked with tears, her makeup completely smudged. I frowned slightly. Want to get away from the trash. Will chuckled softly, kissing my lips affectionately. All right. The window rolled down. Will's gaze swept sideways across Gary's face. Uncle, what's your kink? Pervert? Voyeur? You skip your own wedding to watch your nephew and niece-in-law get intimate? Not cool. Will was a spoiled rich kid. His words were blunt and unfiltered. I liked that. I shifted in Will's embrace, peeking out slightly. Just then, our eyes met Gary's terrifying stare. Camera shutters clicked relentlessly. Gary's gaze swept the area, and his bodyguard swiftly cleared the crowd. Even Catherine was ushered upstairs. The hotel entrance was deserted. "Victoria, get out." Gary's voice was as cold as ever, slipping into my ear without a trace of warmth. I grabbed Will's hand, our fingers interlocking. "I want bok kate." Will squeezed back. "Okay." Gary's patience was notoriously thin, yet today he stood outside the car window for an eternity. Half an hour. An hour. A stalemate. Will's car was surrounded by Gary's bodyguards, unable to move. "Victoria, my patience is limited. Don't push me." I lifted my head, meeting Gary's eyes. "Gary, no one has ever pushed you. You said Will takes good care of me, that you trust him completely. Isn't that right? Then let me tell you now, he takes very good care of me." Gary's fist slammed against the half-lowered window, accompanied by his roar. "Taking good care of me, does that include taking care of me in bed?" I laughed out loud, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, it does." Gary let us go. Of course, if he hadn't, I would have called the police. On the way back, Will's face was dark. I was puzzled. "Why were you crying?" I asked, confused. "You cried when you said including." I bit my lip and chuckled softly, deliberately not answering him. That night, Will pinned me down on the bed, asking me over and over. I begged for mercy. Because he almost smashed the window. I love my window. It was your gift to me. Easy. Will didn't believe me. He punished me fiercely until my throat was hoarse before letting go. Later I found out. That night, Gary stood outside my house until dawn. Days later, at dusk, Gary appeared outside my classroom door. He stood by, watching me hand all the children over to their parents and exchange pleasantries. When the last child was picked up, he stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "Victoria, we need to talk." I turned and walked back to my seat, putting my violin away in its case. Seeing I ignored him, he grabbed my wrist. "Leave Will. You two aren't right for each other. I know his situation far better than you do. Victoria, don't gamble with your own happiness." As Gary spoke, his grip tightened relentlessly. Only when my wrist turned crimson and I cried out in pain, kicking him hard with my foot, did he finally release me. "Gary, you're out of your mind. Didn't you arrange Will and my wedding? Now you show up concerned about my happiness? Don't you find yourself ridiculous?" I slung my guitar case over my shoulder and shot him a look of disgust. Gary flinched at my glare, his face turning pale as he scrambled to explain. "No, it's not like that." I just wanted to. Before Gary could finish, Will's voice echoed from outside the door. "Uncle Gary. Whatever you wanted to say, you shouldn't be saying it to my wife, your niece-in-law." Though I hated acknowledging this new familial dynamic, it strangely felt comforting. I trotted over to Will, who naturally took the case and slung it over his shoulder. "Going home?" I glanced at Gary, then decided to end this once and for all. "Wait a moment. It won't take long." Will nodded. I stepped before Gary and spoke earnestly. "Gary, I don't love you anymore. As you can see, the person I love now is Will. So please don't bother me anymore." Gary's eyes reddened. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Gary's fingers curled slightly. "Are you sure you love him?" "I'm sure." Gary moved fast. So fast I didn't even have time to react. Gary lunged at Will, his fist slamming into the wall behind him. It sounded like bone cracking. "Will!" Still shaken, I rushed to Will's side. Gary stood beside me, his hands stained with blood, his voice icy cold. "Get lost." The next time I saw Gary was when I accompanied Will back to North City. Gary used the Liu family as leverage to force Will to return. That day, Will answered the call from his bed. I bit my lip hard, afraid to make a sound. "Will, dare you tell Victoria the truth? If she knew marrying you was my idea, do you think she'd still trust you? All these years pretending to be gay, was it just to lower my guard? You want Liu Corporation? I'll give it to you." Will had no time for him. He held me, turning from the bed to the floor-to-ceiling window. Gary's voice grew choppy and distant. He seemed to say, "Give me back Victoria, and I'll give you back the Liu Corporation." The Liu Corporation was the lifeblood of 3 generations of the Liu family. The Liu patriarch, Gary's father. Will's parents, Gary's brother and sister-in-law. Gary. But Gary didn't know that long before I decided to give things a try with Will had already come clean. What Will ever wanted wasn't the Liu Corporation, but Gary's peace of mind, and me. What I thought was love at first sight was Will's long-planned scheme. Gary waited at the airport himself. As we landed, I spotted him from afar, standing there in his crisp suit. I walked slowly, arm in arm with Will. Gary's gaze followed me, drawing nearer. "Victoria," he called softly. I pretended not to hear. Will was straightforward. "Uncle Gary, my wife and I have limited time. If you need to discuss anything, let's do it here at the airport. After this, we're heading off on our honeymoon." Gary clenched his fists tightly, struggling to contain the emotions he never showed. "Victoria. Catherine and I, it's over. On our wedding day in Seaside City, I realized what I truly wanted. It was only you. Victoria, please come back." With each word Gary spoke, Will's expression darkened further. My own face wasn't looking much better either. "Victoria, you're too naive. Not just you, even I was deceived by Will. You don't know what I couldn't bear to listen anymore and shot back. Weren't you the one who spread the rumor that Will was gay? To keep you from suspecting him, to secure your position at Liu Corporation, what did Will do wrong? Tell me." Gary stammered, unable to utter another word. Will was clever. After sensing Gary's guardedness toward him, he chose to go with the flow. He was North City's second-generation heir, an openly gay man known to all. Gay. No matter how clearly stated in Will's parents' will, the vast conglomerate would never pass to Will, who could bear no heirs. Yet that will remained a thorn lodged deep in Gary's heart. That was the plain truth. Yet Gary refused to believe it, deceiving himself and others alike. That day, Gary's call went unanswered. Only when I collapsed too exhausted to stand did Will carry me back to bed and finally pick up the phone. "Gary, don't you know whether I want the Liu Corporation or not? You taught me how to live, raised me, don't you know what kind of person I am? Ask yourself honestly, who do you truly love? Is it Catherine? Victoria? Or yourself?" The year I graduated, Catherine left for abroad. Gary failed to persuade his young girlfriend to stay at the airport. I felt as regretful as any online friend. Back then, Gary and I were merely sponsor and sponsored. I even kept a deliberate distance from Will, who was gay. On the night of the gala, to show my gratitude, I invited them both to watch my graduation performance. Later, Gary got me into that orchestra. Will went abroad and lost touch with me. During orchestra rehearsals, Gary would often come to see me. Each time he came, he was drunk. He'd make me play serenades over and over for him. Over time, our relationship seemed to grow closer. Liking someone becomes irrational. I began anticipating every meeting with Gary. From the moment I confessed my feelings and was rejected, I pursued Gary relentlessly for 2 years. On the day Will and I confirmed our relationship, Will confessed to me first. He stroked my fingers, his voice low and deep. "That night, I actually wanted to confess to you. But Gary said he'd arrange everything for your future. He sent me abroad to help him care for Catherine. Back then, I had nothing. I was still growing my wings, afraid to confront him head-on, terrified I couldn't offer you anything. Truth is, I snuck back to see you. You held his hand and said you liked him. God knows how long I comforted Will that night. Damn Will. So tender and sincere. I like you. So, you still went to take care of Catherine?" Later that night, Will spent ages comforting me again. After Will went abroad, he started his own business. Gary never shortchanged him financially. That day in Iceland, he left early because Gary had caught wind of something. He rushed back to handle it. Gary's nephew, raised under his wing, had long been capable of standing on equal footing with him. That Will? Will never cared about it. But Will was waiting for an opportunity. It was Will who leaked the news of Gary and my wedding to Catherine. It was also Will who suggested the plan to Gary. No wonder during the wedding, the coldness in Will's eyes hid emotions I couldn't decipher. You set me up like this, and I'll be angry. I feigned indignation. Will knelt on one knee, earnest and reverent. I'll make it up to you. A lifetime to atone. The airport terminal bustled with people. Boarding announcements echoed repeatedly. Gary's fists clenched and unclenched. Until he gave a bitter laugh. So, victory. It's your company. Yes. Will and I interlaced our fingers. His eyes held his signature defiance and wildness. Gary's gaze flickered between light and shadow. Words danced on his lips before he finally uttered 3, that's good. Gary walked away, his back lonely. He headed in the opposite direction, then suddenly crouched down. Would he cry? Probably not. He was too proud for that. Let him be. After all, we were no longer us. And we had become us. More dramatic love stories coming. Subscribe if you're into this kind of mess.